when I'm bridling this horse, I usually want to be, I like to step kind of right up to the edge of this shoulder right here, because that kind of makes a little block where those horses will kind of feel you there and they feel a little bit more secure. And then when I want to put this bridle on, I won't have it hooked underneath. This is just like a little German martingale. And I'll just take this pony and I'll pull her halter off, and I'll put my hand here, and then when I get ready to put the bridle on her, I'll actually kind of cradle that bit in my hands, and my thumb goes up in this corner of this horse's tongue, on this horse's mouth, and I ask her to open just by pressing a little bit, and then I'll slide it up in there. And then I'll slide it over the ears, and try to be cautious to the fact that whenever you bridle her, that if your bridle's too small, just stop and adjust it so you don't jerk it up in there and make them trying to be smile too much and hurt them, because they don't need to associate pain with what we're asked them to do, you know. And then I'll come back and snap this to the girt, and I just use a light string, not heavy, don't get to flopping. Be sure and buckle my throat latch here, and I'll make that just tight enough that they might rub the bridle off, but tight enough that it'll kind of hold the bridle in place. And this little running martingale, German martingale, is pretty simple. It's just got a nylon string. You tie it to an adjustable string here so you can bring it up and down, and you just come up here and punch you a hole about 12 inches from the end of it and run that string through and tighten the knot. You don't have to have a lot of rings, and you don't make it heavy, and it don't make it flop whenever you're working. And that gives you a draw. If you don't, when you pick this thing up, if you don't have a little bit of slack like that, where this is kind of bowed, then you won't have very much pull. It's not really pulling with your hands. But if you'll make that rein just a little shorter back this way, then that'll give you a little draw before you really actually push on them, and those horses don't fight you as well. And they don't seem to push against you as much, and they may lay there a couple times, but it gives you a little leverage, but they accept it a lot better. And a lot of times, most of the time when I first ride these colts, first thing I'll do is I'll just step here, and I'll pick my reins up and ask this pony to back up a little bit, just to kind of let her know that I'm here and that I'm in charge, and that I want her to listen to me. And it'll kind of take a little kink out of her, but her face is where I'd like for it to be, right there, soft and supple, and she's not arguing with me even though she's still a little fresh. And I'll just back her up a little, get her to where I want her, and I check my saddle, make sure it's tight, and then I'll just and I'll start off at a walk and just kind of walk this pony around in circles, just kind of get her warmed up. I probably lope my horses less than most people. If I've got something that's pretty bronky, you know, I'll go ahead and take the edge off of it pretty good. But a lot of these colts, it seems like I get real personal with them, just getting on them, walking them around, pulling them around in circles for 5 or 10 minutes, getting where they give me the face here. And like I say, this filly's probably had maybe 90 days or so, and nice filly. And I just try to kind of warm her up into the point that she'll listen to my hands, and more important than that, she'll listen to my legs. Everything that I do here, I use spurs or without spurs, either one, just depends on what that colt wants me to do. But when I pick this hand up here and I push against the neck here, I want to push her that outside leg, and I'll drop my inside leg back just a little bit. And that kind of drives her forward, and this left leg kind of pushes her around with my hands. And if you want to go small, get into a smaller, tighter circle, all you got to do is just kind of set back a little bit and just push that leg, and she'll go right around, get crossed over and turn around. And particularly if you're going to work a cow, probably need to lope them just a little bit more, because they'll have a tendency to be a little bit fresher on a cow. Might want to play a little bit more. Like I say, I don't lope and trot my horses excessively, because I want it to be fun for them, and I don't want them to be wore out. But then, because usually by the time I get through either working the cow or working the flag or whatever, usually they've had a pretty good workout. But if they just kind of naturally want to be a little fresh, then I'll lope them a little bit more. When I sit down and pick up on them, I want them to think about the stop and think about taking a step back. Every time I stop, I want my horse to think about, I'm going to have to back up. And the reason for that, and In the cow horse, you kind of got to go forward and up into those cattle. But in the cutting, those horses got to learn to stop, draw back, and wait and come through that turn. And the reason they draw back is when they take that step back, they get advantage of that cow. They're going around that pen, that cow stops. If they'll just stop and draw back on them hocks, they can beat that cow just about every time.